All right, we get to one of my favorite lessons on this course, one of my favorite use cases of ChatGPT. As I said, education can make a huge difference. And if we can find a way to learn faster, we can improve our life much better. We can stay ahead of the competition with our competitors in business, and we can really grow. Now, one of the things that we can use is to learn the knowledge inside books using ChatGPT. Okay. And you don't need to provide the book PDF to ChatGPT because in most cases, ChatGPT already has the knowledge about that book. Now, it can be a little bit tricky, but don't worry, I will teach you how you can do that. So, as I mentioned before, I created a system that will teach me the important knowledge inside books, inside each chapters, okay? And I can show you and tell you how you can do this, not to build this system because it is complex and it requires um, basic knowledge of coding. And it took me about 8 days to complete this project. Okay. Of course, with the help of ChatGPT. Without that, if I wanted to build this project on my own, at least it would take 2 or 3 months. Okay. But anyway, the things that I will teach you here is the strategies that you can use to learn the knowledge inside the books. Okay. So let's begin with an example. Now, the first thing that I always do, for example, if you have a book in your mind, okay, you can tell ChatGPT that, all right, I want you to teach me this book, this specific book. If not, for example, you want to learn something about personal finance, okay, you can come and tell ChatGPT, right, I mentioned that suggest 10 best books about personal finance that you are aware of the book's content. Now, this last part is really important, okay? Because there are a lot of books that ChatGPT doesn't have the knowledge of what is said inside that book, okay? Especially the books that was released after September 2021 that I'm recording right now is the limit of ChatGPT. It's really important to make sure that ChatGPT is aware of the content of the book. Okay. Now, beside asking this question that mentioned the books that you have knowledge about the content of it, we can ask more questions that prove ChatGPT has knowledge. So I'm gonna come here and continue. On the second line, I mentioned that tell me who is the author of each book, okay, and how many chapters each book has. So let's submit this and wait for the response, okay? It usually makes some excuse that, all right, as an AI, I may not have exact information about the book or how many chapters it has, okay? But in some cases, it knows if you push it further. Okay. I have tried this a lot over the past couple of months. Okay. So here we have different books about personal finance, for example, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, as you can see, in none of them, it mentioned the number of chapters. Okay. How many chapters, for example, this book has. But anyway, we are going to push it further. Okay. For example, let's take Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Okay. Just going to copy the whole name and come here and tell ChatGPT to teach us the content of this book. All right, till now I mentioned that now every time that you write a response, I want you to teach me the important information or tips inside each chapter of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. after writing and explaining each important point of the chapter, I want you to make one example of that tip, okay? Then tell me a real life situation that I can use that tip in my life as an entrepreneur with 32 years old. And it is important for me to learn how I can use those tips in my life and in my business, okay? This is really important because not only we will learn the important tips inside that book, but we also learn some examples based on our own situation, what we do, our own life. For example, if I'm working in a bank as an employee, how I can use those tips. If I'm an artist, if I'm a singer, how I can use those tips, right? So it's really important and really helpful. Then I mentioned that after you taught all those tips of the chapter, I want you to write a short story. And inside that story, I want you to teach me those important tips of that chapter. Be innovative and create a story that stay in my mind longer. Okay, this is really, really helpful. Now, after that, I can go deeper into this and ask ChatGPT to create even multiple choice questions. Okay. All right. After that, I mentioned after writing the shortest story, I want you to create several multiple choice questions about the important tips you mentioned for that chapter with the format below. Write the question, then choices on each line, and after two empty lines, okay, write the correct answer number of that question. Okay, so let's submit this and let's see what ChatGPT will do. All right, let me stop this. Let me make some changes here. It's better to tell ChatGPT to start with the first chapter, okay? And then when we are done, tell ChatGPT to go for the next chapter, okay? Okay, so let's save and submit this. And this way it will be more focused on the first chapter. So chapter 1 of Rich Dad Poor Dad and key lessons. Okay, here we have some very short information or summary of the first chapter of this book. Okay, then we have key lessons. Okay, example and real life situation that we can use this um, key lesson number 2. Okay, and then we have our shortest story. Okay, it's really helpful. In this way, not only you can learn the content of this book in a very short time, but you can learn it much better, even better than the way that it is explained inside most books, I can tell you. And one of the things that I mentioned before inside the course is that the authors of the books usually they write a lot of content because they want to sell that book, right? They can summarize that book and teach us the important information in usually in 10, 20, 50 pages maximum, okay? But they write, for example, 300 pages because they want to sell that book, okay? But that way, it will take longer for us to learn the important information. But using ChatGPT, we can skip that part and learn all those informations. Now, as you can see, here is the quiz, okay? According to Rich Dad Poor Dad, what is the key to wealth? Okay, it provided 4 choices. Now I can come here and based on what I have learned, I can answer the questions. For example, um, working for money, buying luxury goods, investing in assets, and making money for you, having a high paying job. Okay, we can select one option and then come here at the last part. We can see the correct answers. For example, the correct answer for question 1 is C. Okay, investing in assets and making money for you. Okay, so this way, not only we will learn the content, but we also practice it. Okay, it's really helpful, really um, life-changing technique, I can say. Okay, it's one of the best ways that I can find to use ChatGPT, and it's extremely valuable, right? Because you can read books, you can learn the important information of a book instead of spending a month reading this book. You can learn this in one day, okay? And I'm not saying that mm, you can come back here and it's really easy learn a book a day, because it will be difficult. The process of learning our mind requires some time. But anyway, we don't spend a whole month reading this book, okay? We can learn this, for example, this book in 4 days, 5 days, right? You can separate, for example, today I'm gonna learn this chapter, tomorrow I'm gonna come and write down, go for next chapter, okay? And same as previous part, it will explain chapter 2, okay? And then the key lessons, then examples and real life based on my situation. This is really valuable, right? And after that, again, the shorter story and quizzes, right? So that was all about using ChatGPT to learn the content inside the book. And one other thing, I didn't pay for this book, right? So you are saving money as well. With the help of ChatGPT, you can learn tons of content with no price. But if you want to purchase this book, you have to pay, for example, I don't know, 10, 15, $20 and purchase this book and learn the information. So that was all about this lesson. I hope you find it valuable, and I will see you on the next part.